Oh my gosh, it is Monday. That is a fancy new intro for a fancy new show. Izzy, I love starting my week with you. All of our friends in the chat, happy Monday, happy week, and happy to the first episode of Ask a Designer. How does it feel, Izzy? We've been hard at work on this and it's here.
Oh my goodness. I don't know. It's like I have the butterflies. Do you have the butterflies too?
A little bit, a little
Yeah.
bit. Yeah. Yeah. Usually when I'm traveling, the butterflies are also a source of me just making sure my internet works. I'm in Croatia at the
Mm-hmm.
moment. I believe you're at home. Yes.
Yes, I am.
Friends in the chat, tell us where you are and where you're enjoying your summer from. I'm sure you've seen us before for Collab Battle. Izzy and I decided it was time to just evolve the premise of our show together. And we thought, Izzy, didn't we? We thought, why don't we just reposition our show to actually help real people solve problems with design? And we think we're fully capable of delivering on that, don't we?
Oh, yes. I mean, we are in for a treat today and for the full schedule that we have planned ahead for all of you.
Yes, 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 yes. Okay, so today we're talking specifically about social media. Izzy and I both work as designers. I own a branding agency. Izzy is a very talented, as you've seen on the show before, an amazing graphic designer. For today's show, we are using my client, Meagen Gibson. She is incredible. She is a journalist. She is a superstar. You'll learn about her today, and I'll make sure that we put her link in the chat as well, so you can also follow her. But on my screen, I'm going to show you what we're going to be building over the next course of episodes together. It is going to be our remixable template, different than before. We're not going to share separate links. But Izzy had this genius idea where we would actually build on one template. So this template will be ever evolving. We'll update the link, and there's going to be a lot of good stuff in here for you.
Mhm.
I really can't wait to show you. So when I click over here and show you guys up close on my screen, we're starting with our first episode. There's going to be some tips in here that we're going to cover today on creating Instagram carousels. We're going to talk a little bit about stories. We'll probably touch a little bit about reels. But I think if you are ready, Izzy, if you are feeling ready, maybe we throw to our little video from our client today, who is
Yes.
Meagen. Let's hear what she has to say.
Hi, everybody. My name is Meagen Gibson. I'm a journalist, producer, and director. And I approached Phil Pallen because I was having trouble making sure that my brand was cohesive and representative and reflective of my expertise and experience in the field of journalism and interviewing people, as well as television producing and directing. And I just was not hitting the mark trying to use tools on my own. And so very recently, Phil was able to deliver me an entire brand, which I'm absolutely in love with and totally feels like home. And he was able to build it in Adobe Express so that all of the obstacles to using tools were completely removed. And all that I had to do was log into Adobe Express, pull up my brand, and let my creativity fly. And one of the things that I've noticed in the last couple of weeks in playing with the social sharing templates and the presentation templates that Phil and his team built for me is that my instinct initially is always to share informally first. And a lot of the templates that you guys built are very formal and very kind of product and offering oriented. And I kind of reverse engineer everything naturally. So I want to talk informally in stories and in shorts first, see what hits, and then build a product and an offering out of that. And so I'm curious if you can take the templates that we already have designed that I absolutely love and informalize them and make them more story oriented, change the dynamics of how they fit on the screen, and also make it so that they're easy to transition back into those products and offerings at a later date. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Meagen. Thank you for outlining what I believe is a real business or branding or design challenge, right? Izzy, I'm sure this is the same for you, right? Clients trust us to deliver something that really kind of visualizes a business concept or an idea, but we want to empower our clients to post and be present online, but we also don't want to, I don't know, make them scared to post or unsure of how to show up as their true, authentic selves. I think Meagen did a really good job of outlining this. Is this something that comes up with your clients, Izzy?
Oh, absolutely. It's basically what I hear, and maybe this is something that you hear as well, is that they have all of the assets like presented to them. And even though, you put them in templates the best that you can, sometimes what they are trying to say does not necessarily quite fit within the template, so we need to adjust. And sometimes this like allows to have a conversation. So if you are facing this today with your own clients, or maybe it's for your own content where you do love your template so much and you don't want to go out of it, sometimes you kind of have to. And we'll tackle this problem together, Phil and I.
Yeah, we're going to tackle it today. I love that, Izzy. I just have to say, by the way, someone in the chat, who was it? They said this is their weekly dose of fizzy.
Yeah, that was Keys.
Oh, Keys. Hey,
Thank
Wade.
you.
Hey, Carol. Hey, Patrick. We got a full house today. I have a feeling it's because we had office hours right before this, but we're so happy you stuck around. Anyways, we're going to tackle this challenge, friends. What does it mean to be on brand, but how do we not be too on brand? How do we not let our brand get in the way of having a free-flowing online presence that can be both kind of formal or structured, depending on what it is you're posting, but also casual? That's what we're tackling today. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. The place where it feels like the right place to start, that was a little wordy, is in brand kits. So right away, the first thing I did when I said, Meagen, your brand is ready, this is what it looks like, was I delivered a brand kit for Meagen. So if I scroll over and you want to take a peek at what this brand looked like in terms of what I delivered to Meagen, my client, we have here a mark, we have a word mark. We're looking at some different color combinations as well that we'll be able to explore today with our templates. I like to do multiple logo versions, right? I mean, I like to think of a brand as your toolkit. And typically when choosing color, it's in the range of 4 to 6. So you're seeing a wide range here of colors that I want Meagen to feel inspired to use. And the more you use these colors, the more kind of brand recognition you're building. We have header and body fonts here selected for her, Adobe fonts, of course. And as well, when I'm actually doing a brand identity with my team, shout out to Kostya and Igor and Lucy, that's my team. We're actually visualizing how will this look on web. Photography is a big part of the branding process, right? Having a nice contrast, visual interest. And so even though these are placeholder text spots, obviously we start with this design, we fill it in as we work and as we learn more about the client. Now, this is relevant for today, Izzy. Clients say to me, well, Phil, I have this beautiful brand. How should I show up on platforms, social media platforms like Instagram? We start to actually visualize how in the brand identity process. I think that's pretty unique for us, given that my specialty is personal branding. But, you know, and I'm not saying this is exactly how you have to post online, but it's really meant to start the thinking process. And it's meant to give you some guidelines, even when we're doing things like business cards, which, by the way, we can now do in Express. Obviously, this would actually have, you know, phone numbers and emails and that kind of stuff on it. But just conceptual at this point. It's meant to inspire, even textures. Izzy, I know you're a big texture person. You loved this one, didn't you? This was your
Oh my
favorite
gosh.
mock-up.
Yes, it was my favorite mock-up.
We have Adobe Firefly to thank for these. I would say thank you to Firefly for these mock-ups. We are having such a ball with Firefly for this specific use, right? Showing a client, this is how your brand could look. So friends, when we hop over to the brand kit, we've got logo setup, we've got color choices, we've got fonts, and we've got templates, which we're gonna actually work from today. So if I just do a quick little scroll through, these are what some of the branded templates look like that we worked on with Meagen. Again, placeholder text, meant to be a starting place. Let me just do one little scroll out here. Meant to be a starting place for clients to be able to take this and start, but not stop, right? It's meant to just kind of plant the seed. So what I typically have my clients do is I say, hey, here are some designs already set up for you, let's say by a creative, a designer. Most of my clients are, you know, they identify as not very tech savvy. Meagen is tech savvy. Not all of my clients are. But the idea here is choose a design as a starting point. So we would right click here, like duplicate the design. And then what we would do is we would drag this down to this little marker I have down here called templates in action. So friends, when I say branded template, this is what I mean. And this is something you can design for yourself in Adobe Express. Typically, my clients hire us to do it for them because they're busy working professionals. But this is the most amazing platform that gives you control, even if you're someone that's not super tech savvy. right? And I love, shout out to Meagen for actually hopping into this template and getting started. And I think, Izzy, you are back here duplicating and exploring some designs
Yes.
here as well. Yes,
So
yes.
can I
It's so
just
fun
say
though.
that
I was gonna say
Meagen
it's
is
so fun to
actually,
bring you to my
oh,
client.
oh yeah. Oh my gosh. Yeah. It's such a pleasure to be doing this and sharing our knowledge on this show. And this, I mean, it's, it's really fun working with Phil, and you can learn so much. Like, I feel like we can learn so much from one another. Something
We
that I'd like
do.
to add quickly is that Meagen is actually here on the chat on YouTube and said in all caps, "I love my brand kit so much!" Exclamation mark 4 times.
Woohoo!
There you go. And
I
then
love
also,
it.
and also she asked, "Someone please tell me where I can make those paper clips."
I know.
Meagen, if you figure it out, I want one too.
It's true. I've sourced a lot of like branding merch. We've done, all kinds of like stationery and desktop stuff, but I've never done paper clips. But we should do paper clips.
Yeah.
This is something I'm going to Google as soon as we wrap up today. So
Amazing.
I feel like we should hop in, Izzy. Let's actually get
Yeah.
started on the design, and you and I are going to tackle this together. I'll pop in with some ideas for strategy. I'm going to lean on. I actually think it's kind of cool because you're less familiar with this brand. I love
Yes.
working on the projects where you bring them to the table, and I'm like, oh, look what we can do here, and I'm looking at it for the first time. You're really kind of looking at Meagen's brand for pretty much the first time today, and I want to just give her some advice. How do we stay on brand without it feeling too limiting, right? Not every social media post needs to look perfect like this. I think this brand can inspire so much. I didn't actually, let me just quickly explain what this is, and then we're going to hop in and design Izzy. I just changed our plan.
Perfect.
I do a version of this, friends, at the beginning of every template. This is a very simple image that you can save on your phone. And let me show you why. I did a little screen record before this just so I could explain what I do. But that image has all the color combinations of the brand. I save it on my phone in favorites. I copy it, hop over to Instagram. Let's say I'm going to go start a story. Okay. I can click it and paste it, click draw. Okay. We're moving fast, I know. But then I can actually sample all of those colors quickly in an Instagram story, not just the background where you would use a little eyedropper in Instagram, hold it on the screen for 3 seconds to make the background full. But then that image, I love that that image stays floating up at the top. So let's say you also want to brand your text, your Instagram, not necessarily the font, but your Instagram text. They give you a variety of styles. They just added a handful of them. You can sample the color of that text and the background color by having that image, that floating image. I do this for all my brands. It's a quick little trick so that obviously we know you're designing probably the core of your designs here in Express, but there's still a lot that you're going to be designing in Instagram directly. And that's a way to sprinkle in those little branded moments. Okay. Izzy, maybe we switch over to your screen and I'll design with you. And
Perfect.
maybe we start at the back and let's just pick a design that Meagen's already been working on and come up with some ideas for her. Friends, this is real. This is a real client of mine. This is a real business challenges. That's what we're going to tackle.
So how about I duplicate this one? The first one that I wanted to personally maybe fix was this one here. So let me duplicate it so that way we can just go from, like, there's always a reference, right, that we can go back to.
Yes, good call.
And hold. Oh, hold on. I just need to. Oh, shit.
We can also, I think we just had an issue with your screen share. We can also hop over to mine if that's easier, Izzy. Oh, we see you. Okay. Perfect. I think we got it.
Perfect. There you go.
There we go.
So I'm looking at this one here, which I really like this because to me, this is a very engaging story and personally, I want to read everything. It might be a little hard to read everything if it's a story only, or even if it's in a reel, because there's a lot happening within that one frame. So Phil, you had a really good idea about this. Can you share it with, because I don't want to steal away your thunder here.
Sure. I know. Isn't it funny? I'm like, Izzy, you share. And then you're like, no, Phil, you share. But
You share
it's why we had to rebrand Collab Battle, because we weren't battling. We were just
Mhm.
collabing. One idea I had here where it's showing a lot of information on one screen is we can actually select, you can see this on Izzy's screen and on mine, but
Mhm.
if I was to group any of these elements, I'll just grab a few of them
Big deal.
really quickly. Oop, I'm going to lock her into place actually. And then I'll just click and select all of these elements, group them, and then did you guys see that? So I'm just lowering the opacity on all of these elements. Once I've done that on all, I can ungroup. Nope, I don't want to do that. I'm trying to think. Oh, right. If I ungroup all of them, then the opacity. So here, let's keep them all selected. There we go. 20%. Okay. I was thinking, Meagen, for this image, if it was going to be an Instagram story, I believe you posted it as a feed post, but let's say this was going to be an Instagram story. Friends, don't be afraid, particularly in stories and in reels, right? You could actually have a multi-page reel. And by changing one element in the design, it will actually animate it in some respect. So let me give an example. Okay, and I just selected one at random here. See how you can see all the elements, but your eyes are drawn to one particular feature? What I could then do when I'm happy with this is I could put this back to my 20% opacity. And pop up the opacity on the next one. And it really just takes a few seconds. So imagine in a story, only one element on screen is changing, and that's actually going to create an animation effect between the two images, if that makes sense. Izzy, I don't know if I explained that properly, but I
Oh
did
yeah,
my best.
you did. So basically, you're trying to tell a story, right? And you're trying to keep that audience
Exactly.
engaged by not necessarily, because if they see everything at once, it may be overwhelming. I'm sorry to say, people don't read anymore. So you need to deliver everything on a silver platter for them to make it very easy to consume that content.
Amen. Amen. And
And
I'll leave on this one because I think you had some ideas for iconography here, right?
yes, so maybe you can call me the queen of consistency. I love consistency a lot. And basically, if you wanted to add icons when it comes to introducing yourself, you would have to have icons on all of the points that you were trying to make. Because if it's just one or two, as what we are seeing right now, it can be seen as inconsistent. So either we add them everywhere or we remove. And to me, who likes a clean design, I think we should remove them. What do you think, Phil?
I say remove them for this quick example, and maybe I would save them. You know, like maybe I would just put them off the canvas for a second while I decide where they're going to go. In this instance, like if I was going to go into more detail in this one particular aspect, like I'm almost thinking, Meagen, what if you were to post this on a Monday and each day of the week you were to go into more detail on one thing about you? You could save these as highlights, for example, and so someone could watch it in a sequence, watching it back to learn about you, decide if they're going to follow you. But I love the icons for when you go into a little bit more detail on a particular topic. So I'm just going to like cut them just for right now, not this one, just the three icons. And let's actually go back to some of these other designs that we'll, I'm sure, get to. This iconography is on point.
Yes,
Okay.
it's perfect.
Isn't it perfect?
It's
I love it.
perfect. Hmm.
I love it. Now, there is a unique challenge when you're using custom branded iconography, which is what this is in this case. It can be a little challenging to now match that design. So what I would normally do is hop into elements, hop into icons. Occasionally, I'll go to shapes if I need, for example, lines and arrows. I use this category a lot in Express. Simple, flat, kind of design. Like even this arrow is a little more on brand than this one. I'm gonna get rid of that one. Obviously, that's not pointing in the right direction, but like something like even this handwritten one is kind of this handwritten style might be kind of interesting. I might just adjust the layout of it. See how that already, you see how the design already kind of matches? I'm considering things like line weight. It's probably the thing I'm paying most attention to. These have a very specific line weight. So in this case, I'm trying to match that. And if it's not designed custom, it might not be perfect. Let's go into iconography and find an arrow. I would personally avoid anything like that that's just thick and doesn't really match the brand. In branding, particularly when we're working with a brand kit or a brand identity, it's kind of like a matching game, isn't it, Izzy? You're kind of like, okay, here's what I have. What could I find that coexists well in the same family? I think that's how I would describe it.
Absolutely. Sometimes, depending on the brand style guide that you receive, you can also ask your designer, okay, what if I do want to do this on my own? What should I look for? And the designer can write maybe a little description on look for icons that like just exactly what you said, that has a small line weight, that is symmetrical. Don't use like, I call it chalk line, where it's like almost like a crayon, that it's not,
Yes.
don't go for organic. Try to go here, and then having a page of examples of what you should seek, so that way you know where you're going with like what you're trying to do. Sometimes that does not also happen within the brand delivery, and I'm speaking from my own experience. I don't know what is yours, Phil, but
Yeah, it's true.
I offer like a month revision after, like just a quick call to say, okay, now that you have put your brand in place, what are the challenges and how can we overcome them? And then this is where we have like a quick edit of the brand style guide to make sure that all of those challenges are solved.
I love it. That's a really good point. I kind of have a version of that. We follow a very kind of specific format that we deliver on that. But particularly with websites, things like that, it's the same kind of idea. It's like 30 days to like try it on. That's what I love about, I love Meagen for a lot of reasons, but I'd say one of the top reasons was the fact that she actually used these templates as a jumping off point or as a starting point for her incredible personal brand. So you might think, oh my gosh, I'm worried she's going to come back and she doesn't like the templates. I know she likes the templates, but it brings me so much joy that she's coming back and saying, hey, I tried these and here are things that are coming up for me. Give me guidance. In fact, I love it so much that we decided to turn it into a show. A whole episode, right, Izzy?
Yes, exactly. Aren't we lucky?
We are so lucky. So let's hop into, okay, we talked about this one. Was there anything else you wanted to say about this kind of overarching angle? Great.
Yes, actually. So I love here that Meagen has used the remove background option, which like you can see there was a background, but maybe in this instance particularly, we see kind of a, maybe if you can scroll down, no, I think we're on your screen, Phil. Yeah, we can see kind of a harsh line in the outline of Meagen right here. So that having a pale background will emphasize this. And it's not like, as someone who is on the go, again, who wants to create something quickly, can edit using the eraser tool and so on. It also takes a lot of dexterity with the mouse to do this.
Yes,
but
it does.
If you allow me, Phil, maybe we can change the background color to a brand color right here, where see, just by doing this, we're not seeing this harsh line, and we are seeing the harsh line in the hair. With curly hair is always a little tricky.
It is.
But we're not seeing this harsh line like around here. And I don't mind as much the curly hair because I know that this is tricky. But see, like on the side here, we're not seeing this anymore. So it would require just like some edits where here we do have like the text is in another color. It changes the whole reading of everything.
So we'd have to definitely adjust
Adjust
some colors.
some colors right here, but it's, to me, it just, and maybe again, this is biased, but it just made the design a lot more elevated than what it was before.
Yeah, it's a good point. So maybe the advice here is, I mean, as remove background becomes better and better, the thought is maybe when you're removing a background, think about roughly what the color was that you removed and generally try to match it in the same type of direction. Doesn't have to be the exact same color, but maybe it's a related color on the color wheel. Or maybe if it's, if it's a super dark color, try to avoid a super light color. That idea, that's generally going to help when you're doing a quick design or a quick edit. Speaking of quick, Izzy, while you're updating this and it's looking really, really good, friends, one of the best pieces of advice I can give you when you're creating content is to set a timer. Set a timer. Create what you can in the amount of time that you have, and don't strive for perfection because it will take you hours that you probably don't have. So I literally will set a timer, 10 minutes, 15 minutes, 20 minutes. And I know that if I have 10 minutes, it's not going to be my best work. So I will intentionally work with something that already exists. So for example, this is quite a custom design that Meagen was exploring. She saw a reference design and got inspired, which is just wonderful. But on a day where you don't have the time to explore, my recommendation is hop in to a template that you've already created for yourself or had created for you, and work with a design that makes it easy to add some ideas. That's my tip.
Love it.
This is looking really good.
I think this one here is locked, so I can't edit it.
Okay. Which one are you on? Let me see where you are.
This one right here.
I know I've duplicated so many versions of it. Oh, there I see you. Friends, by the way, you're seeing us use live collaboration in Express. This was the whole premise of our last show. We were supposed to be battling, but we were just collaborating for the most part. But you're seeing both of us as creatives work together on a design. But friends, particularly those of you that are creatives, right? You're designing things in Photoshop and in Illustrator. Know that you can import those file types into Express, and you could create a working template or even do working sessions with your clients to teach them how to do things. Izzy, I was just thinking, when your clients come to you and say, hey, what arrows do I choose for my brand? Wouldn't it kind of make it like next level to be able to hop into Express, co-editing live with your clients and show them where to get so many of these assets? Friends, don't underestimate all the magic that is under Elements. Click Elements on that left-hand panel, and you've got design assets, you've got backgrounds, shapes, icons, now charts in Express. Remember that shapes are also vector. Lines, you can even adjust the line width. So they feel like small details, but they're really major when you're trying to stay on brand.
So here again, just for consistency, I'm seeing that there was some of the text boxes that were aligned justified to the left, some were centered. I'm also seeing that some have capital letters and some don't, like this one here. So again, if you're making that choice of keeping everything lowercase or uppercase or sentence case, make sure that it's applied everywhere, because this will also help you maintain that consistency. And again, people don't know they're attracted to like those details, but they are. It's like, that's why, like, sometimes you're wondering, why do I like this design so much compared to this design? And it's because of little details like this. So here,
absolutely,
just
we're
going
getting some, while you're working on that, I was just going to say, we're getting some really good feedback in the chat today. Some fizzy feedback from Keys. Keys was really fascinated by that section of the brand board that you described, Izzy, or the brand guidelines, I think you call it. I call it a brand board. But even like building that out and giving people guidance on icon selection. You know what I'm working on right now is a style guide to use Firefly style settings within Express. So teaching my clients how to generate images using Adobe Firefly, using the parameters in place, but also choosing the style guides, the paper effect or the synth style. Like there's so many interesting styles in there. And there's sometimes like so many to choose from. How do you choose those with brand in mind? I haven't developed it yet, but as soon as I do, I plan to share it on this show.
Oh my God, it's going to be amazing. Another thing I want to quickly bring your attention to here was the spacing in the white space. There was a lot of boxes that was kind of like this, where like there was barely any space between like the canvas and the text. So essentially just, bringing them just a little closer inside, like helps a lot with reading. Specifically that not everyone has the same resolution on their phone, depending if it's an iPhone, an Android, maybe it's even older than that. Sometimes it crops in a different way, like that screen size is different. So thinking about that, like just to have that wiggle room for everyone to see your content. Phil, you had mentioned something about the logo. Do you want to talk about that?
I would love to. And we can stay on your screen here for a second because I think we can see that logo down there, which we're about to delete. You go, why would you delete it when you get, all this time and money on branding? Well, I think it is, you probably agree with me that we don't have to have the logo on everything. The less we use it on social media, the more impactful it is when we do use it. So in this case, I think because we see Meagen's face, we're going to see her social media handle, which also doubles as her name, which, by the way, you should follow her on Instagram. She's amazing. So wise. In this case, I probably wouldn't have the logo because we're already seeing a face and a handle. I don't think we need kind of three, hey, this is me. At times, it may feel too salesy in some way. If this is kind of like a get to know me post, I wouldn't like get you to get to know me by handing you 3 business cards at a time. You know what I mean? So I kind of think, yeah, we could probably do without the logo. It might feel more personal. And the logo will save for instances where people might not know where the idea is coming from. We won't have your face, or if we do, it'll be a small profile photo. We might have your social media handle, but we might have this amazing one sentence, this amazing quote from you. And particularly a quote that we might want to share. I actually have some examples, Izzy, on my screen. If you want me to switch over to mine,
sure.
Let's talk for a quick second about the types of content that you can be creating right now that is indicative or that is encouraging of shares. So I'm going to hop over to my friend Lauren's Instagram account. I think she's one of my favorite examples of this at the moment. Her handle is Let's Book Huddle. Pardon me, clearing my voice into the microphone. Sorry. I'm going to click this example that I saw over the weekend. I know for a fact Lauren spent no more than 10 minutes on this post that now has almost 2,500 likes, and I can only imagine hundreds, probably thousands of saves and shares, friends, shares. Look how simple this is. I know, because I know Lauren well. She went on the Explore page on her Instagram and saw this quote, "Life is good again." And then in brackets, put something that was related to her audience, which is readers of books. Life is good again. I don't know what any of these things mean because I don't read books. But people that do read books know exactly what these little sayings mean. By the way, she uses Adobe Express to create these beautiful branded templates. And so what I also love for those of my friends here hanging out with us that are content creators, this last one was actually, it means that this was a sponsored post. So good on her for making engaging content that also doubles as sponsored content. So friends, what is this? Each one of these slides, even though it's like 2 sentences, is something that is going to resonate or is designed to resonate with the audience that it's targeting. The number one way to grow on Instagram right now is to create content that people are likely to share to their own audience. Push this to stories, which means, someone's looking at this going, gosh, I relate to that. I couldn't say it better myself. I can tell you she's grown her account to over 157,000 on Instagram in a little over a year, but not by
Wow.
much. No, it's major. I mean, this advice I'm giving you, I mean, this is the best example I can think of it right now. There are posts where she's got thousands of comments. And friends, her piece of advice that I'm sharing with you, she sets a timer, she creates content in the amount of time that she has, which could be 10, 15, 20 minutes. So coming back to this design, which is looking fantastic. Meagen, again, by the way, you're being such a great sport for letting us just kind of explore here and share ideas with you and everyone else who's watching and wanting to improve their social media, stay on brand, etc. Create in the amount of time that you have. And also, I would say, don't put a ton of pressure on yourself to create a blockbuster every single time you go to create, right? Every single time you go to create. I love the direction. I think, so much of what we talked about today is going to be really useful for you. Izzy, do we want to do any more critiquing on existing content, or should we get to writing new content? You get to decide.
Let's do new content. Let's
do new
create
content.
Yeah.
I love it. So friends, you don't even have to leave Adobe Express to have one of the most amazing resources specifically for TikTok, but you can be using this for any content that you are creating on. I clicked add-ons on the left-hand side. I then went to featured. It's featured right now, but you could scroll and find it if you haven't used it yet. It is called Tik Tok Symphony Assistant. Today, we're going to use it for content ideas. There are other things you can do in here that I'm not going to demonstrate today, like finding music for TikTok, emerging trends and such. But today, we're going to use it for content ideas. So in the way that Izzy and I don't even have to leave Adobe Express to collaborate, we don't even have to leave Adobe Express to actually get content ideas. I'd love to find out in the chat if any of our friends that are hanging out with us live, are any of you using AI tools to create your content? If so, share some details in the chat. I'd love to hear from you. What's working? What's not? I use AI tools every single day. I'm a huge, I was going to say a proponent of these, but I'm going to say a huge geek. Izzy, I'll own that title. I'm definitely a huge geek.
Oh, well, I'm right behind you for that.
I love that I have a brainstorm partner, at all times. So for example, here in the Tik Tok Symphony Assistant, which will be over here on the right-hand side while I'm creating, it already gives me some pre-populated prompts here. I can look at emerging trends in TikTok. I can look at TikTok ad examples if that's relevant to the project that I'm working on. Okay. I had tested a few earlier, so I'll scroll up and show you. So here, I said, what's trending right now on TikTok? And not only does it actually say, here's what's emerging, it'll actually give you a hyperlink of the hashtags. So hashtag Serena Carpenter, other things related to soccer, I believe, or football. If you're in the UK, we know that people all over the world here. We've got to use the right terms. Give me some creative ideas based on what's trending, friends. So these are pre-populated. You don't even have to come up with these prompts yourself. These are pre-populated in this TikTok Symphony Assistant. Again, it uses the TikTok API, which is really a special integration with Adobe Express. My recommendation is you don't need to use this just for TikTok. Sure, use it for TikTok, but also think about Instagram and think about LinkedIn. Think about Pinterest. Let's not forget about some of those other platforms that maybe don't get as much conversation and love. And so I like to get I love this because it actually gives you video references, right? How cool is that if I want to actually scroll through some examples, watch them? Again, don't even need to leave Express. So here's Meagen's Instagram. I know at a quick glance, okay, she's already doing a great job of branding because I can see her without even having to click, tackling procrastination. So I could sit here and stare at a blank Word doc for an hour, which is something I would do before the invention of AI. Or I could say, I want to create a carousel post about tips for overcoming procrastination. Can you give me a few tips that I can share with my audience. Let's just start with that, okay? I'm going to click generate. We'll give it a moment to generate. So again, you're not just limited to the pre-written prompts, but you can actually interact with this. And how cool is this? So I left it pretty general just to see what we got. But here are the tips. So tip 1, tip 2, tip 3, tip 4, tip 5. Okay. If I wanted, I didn't even specify the number, but I could specify 5. I could specify 10. Remember, on a carousel, which we're talking about today, and our remixable template, which will be linked in the description, has additional tips that we're talking about today to stay on brand, but to also create carousels. If you guys don't like reels, don't worry. You don't have to create reels. You can create carousels that get shared, like the examples we talked about, and saved. I think for so many of us that are educating our audience, saves are also useful. Here we go. So it gave me 5 tips. That's actually how many I wanted, and I forgot to specify. These might not be perfect, but they might be a starting point. I love that I can click and copy it directly into Express. Let me duplicate this quickly. And again, maybe I just start with that first sentence. Less is more. Prioritize self-care. Okay. Boom, just like that. And if I wanted, I could add in some more detail. Here, I'm going to say, I might borrow some text from another template. I'm going to copy that over. I do this all the time. I'm going to jump between templates. There we go.
I do the exact same thing.
You do it too?
Oh, yeah.
Well, this is why I like this idea of having all of your templates in one place. It's so important that you consider eating well and taking regular breaks, okay? So much of this is not an exact science, friends. It's just, making it make sense for your audience. Here's another little tip. I generally like to balance it. So if there was a link.com/procrastination, we'll pretend that that's a real link. Let's say that was a link, a blog post that Meagen was going to write. I will sometimes drag this up right out of frame and put this. If it's a quote, I might do it right there. Or if it's more of a branding moment, I might do it down here. And that feels a little more balanced. That's one way, right? And that will still promote the fact that people can go somewhere to learn more about this or read more about it without it being incredibly in your face. I might even drop this down just a few sizes. So we still see it up top like that. And the last little test that I will do that I'll teach you guys if you don't already know this, but this is one of my favorite little tricks that I call the square rule. And what this does is by drawing and centering this square on your design, putting the opacity at 90%, doesn't have to be exact, that shows you how this is going to preview your post on your Instagram feed, right? And so we're typically designing in feed, that includes carousels, 1080 wide by 1350 tall. We're talking pixels here. If we were to go over here, you'll see them. 1080 wide, 1350 high, and Instagram on the feed crops it as a square. So if you ever want to do a little square test, that's what you do. Just draw a square, draw it over top, and you'll see what is going to get included in that crop and what isn't. So I typically will have a link and a logo. For the most part, I'll usually have them out of frame unless it's a quote, unless it really fits within the design. You've got flexibility here. You can move them around. And so much of this, like Izzy said a second ago, so much of this is learning by doing, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely. If you don't mind me adding to the logo here, just because we're still touching on that topic here. Another way to understand when or when not to use the logo, and this is something that I talk to my clients about, is seeing the logo as a front door. Now, would you have the front door always in someone's face? Or in Meagen's case, when we were on that story earlier, is do they want to see a friendly face when they open that door? So
I love
seeing the look,
that.
right? So like basically the way I see brand is within like architecture, so like a full house and everything, like every little room or every little detail has like, it's part of the brand, right? Like even the party that you host, this is the ambiance, this is, you know, the invitation you send, this is your marketing. Like if people want to come back, well, you know, you have a good brand. So that's the way I personally see branding, which we will definitely get into as we have more and more episodes together, Phil. But the logo is your front door. So it's good to have there to identify your house, right? Your brand house, but it's not always what people want to see. They want to see all of the other things that are inside your house. They want to interact with what's inside your house. And you need to, again, if you have a cohesive vibe design, then you know that you're doing it right.
That is really, really good advice. Thank you for sharing that. I mean, I can tell you've had these conversations with your clients. I've also had them. We have them multiple times, right? And so you kind of, we
Mm-hmm.
land on this wisdom, um, you know, just as we're working with clients. And, you know, encountering these kind of unique situations. By the way, I am designing a YouTube thumbnail from an
Ooh.
Instagram feed post. I did a story just to show you how quickly this can be done in Express. We started on a feed post. I'm going to close the Tik Tok Symphony for a moment. Duplicated and resized here to an Instagram story, and that worked beautifully. Same width, just adjusted the height, so I barely had to change anything. Friends, what is this now perfect for? Perfect for a thumbnail for a reel. Don't feel pressure that your quick vertical video content be perfectly branded all the time. The beauty of Instagram and the beauty of Adobe Express is you can hop in here after the fact, create the design, and upload it to your feed so it looks pretty and branded. Not something you need to worry about in the moment when you're posting. Used to be something you had to worry about in the moment, but not anymore. I came back here to get a little photo of Meagen for this thumbnail. So not only did we do a story, but I also wanted to show you how we can design what could be
Oh,
a
look
YouTube
at that.
thumbnail, because Meagen's going to start creating on YouTube, aren't you, Meagen? Aren't you? Yes, you are. Doesn't have to be by tomorrow, but you are so good on video that I just feel like you have to. So, and then, you know, of course, we can do some other modifications here. Izzy, you like this image on the blue? I actually really love that. Remember our color combos, so we can quickly change those on the go. And so much of this is just testing and doing. But I wanted to just show you how quickly that can be done. In
Mm-hmm.
just a few minutes, we started with a feed post, an Instagram story. It could also be an Instagram reel or a thumbnail for a reel that you post after the fact. And then, of course, a YouTube thumbnail, or at least the starting point of one. Knowing Izzy, she'll hop into elements and then she'll go into backgrounds or design elements or design assets rather, and add like a texture. Let's see what comes up.
Well,
Right?
it depends. It depends on the brand. Like sometimes, oh,
Depends
I
on
like that
brand.
though. This is great.
I knew you would. I know you. I know you.
Ah,
Looks good.
it looks
Looks really
great.
good. And actually that texture kind of takes away from the
Mm-hmm.
challenges of curly hair with a removed background, doesn't it?
Yes, it does. Another thing I wanted to add, specifically when you have like a big library of colors, if you're going into creating content, you can also color code your content because from my experience, again, I don't know if Meagen is doing this already, but I mean, I did see, what was it again? Clashing, uh, crushing, caching, and clashing.
Yes.
So you can also color code your content. Let's say you wanted to have like a full library about what is it on crushing, or you want to talk about crushing, then maybe you will use the beige tones specifically for that. If you wanted to talk about caching, maybe you will use the blue tones and those goldens. to specifically talk of that. So after a while, as you keep posting those content, you will get to have brand recognition within those parameters, and your audience will pick it up like right away. And if they're going to your page specifically for that type of content, they will know, and you will eliminate that friction for them.
That is a really good idea. I like that. I sometimes describe that as like sub branding. So it's like it's kind of creating the infrastructure to not only have your brand, which in this case a personal brand is Meagen Gibson, but then it's associating color with some of those sub-branded elements or entities. Another thought for quick and easy content creation. This is probably one of my favorite templates right here, which is simply just text. That one's going to show better with the contrast on my shared screen. Simply just text on a colored background. Meagen and friends watching, when you're on client calls, when you're on stage, when you're on a live stream, these are all examples where you are sharing thought leadership. Even casually, I could go back and even watch this live stream, and I could pull quotes of mine. I could pull quotes of Izzy's. I think it was Jeff who picked up in the chat. He said, I love this idea of branding as a house, like a container, I sometimes describe branding as a playground. This is the area in which you define what it means, where to be and how you show up, but you get to play inside of it and have fun with it and feel energized by it and inspired by it. And also feel confident to make mistakes. Maybe some designs will work and maybe some won't. That's the beauty of feeling empowered to actually create instead of just staying in here and thinking about all the possibilities that could be. Branding is so much about like giving you the toolkit. Here we go. I'm getting preachy, Izzy. Watch out. Watch out.
I love it.
I love
right behind you.
Yeah, I know, right? I know I'm preaching to the choir. I love this. And it's kind of like what I will sometimes do is when I'm on a client call and I say a zinger or I think of an analogy, I will literally take pen and paper and write down a single word, playground. And I know to come back to that later and actually expand on that quote or use AI or a transcription tool to isolate that quote and expand on it. These are instances of you grabbing from what already exists in real life. Not only is that going to be the easiest content for you to create, but it's going to be the best content for you to create. So whether it's client calls, hopping over to the Explore page on Instagram, right, and seeing what other content is hitting, even if it's not in your industry, how can you get inspiration that you can quickly take it and turn it into something that makes sense for your brand?
Wow.
How about
so
that?
much is,
You didn't know you were going to get a sermon today, did you?
No, I mean, I felt you were talking to my soul. This is amazing.
Well, here's what's fun. So this show, we are going to, I think we mentioned this on the top, but I'll say it again in our final few minutes. You and I are going to bring real projects to the table. So you and I are, collab battle, sometimes we would do something because we thought it would be useful, but like we're sharing real examples, real questions from our actual clients to inspire the direction that we take this in the advice we're able to give you as designers. And so I would also say, friends, if you have a question for us, something you want us to tackle on the show, you know where to find both of us. Find us on social media. I'm at Phil Pallen.
I'm at RD Izzy on social media.
Oh, yes, you are. Oh, yes, you are. And we're around. And we're just really excited to bring this new format. Can I also say a huge thank you to Meagen for being such a good sport and being the inspiration for our very first episode of Ask a Designer. We'll be back, I believe it's in 2 weeks. Again, following office hours, our friends. They're so entertaining. I love them. And Izzy, do you want to give a little preview? Are we allowed to say what we're tackling on our next show?
I mean, we're still putting some feelers in, but it might be about a festival. I'll just put it like that.
Ooh, totally different. Totally different. So friends, stick around. Stick around. There's more good stuff coming. And also stick around. We'll be back here 2 weeks from today, tackling a brand new brand. Thank you for being so active in the chat. It's been a lot of fun hanging out with you. We've covered a lot of ground. Thank you, Meagen. Thank you, Izzy. Thanks, everyone, for hanging out with us. We'll see you back next time.
Thank you. Bye.